Okay, let's start with this. Christopher Comstock, that's the name of the guy who has a YouTube channel. And the title of the video is Fall of Breneau, the Downfall of Our Human Naivety. I was prompted to watch that. Christopher Comstock, for those that don't know who he is, he was introduced to the Guardian materials through Ashaya Dayan. And from those groups, when she began running those workshops, right? I guess it was out of Sarasota, Florida, the Bermuda Triangle, right? That area down there. And a lot of these maps were being released into the public, okay? And boy, is this AI really hitting me hard, not wanting me to share what I'm about to share, but that's sort of too bad. And this has to do with what we call, because it's a binary war gamer. Okay. Binary stars. So here's a couple little hints that's gone through the stream. What I call like little markers. When the what's his name, Mr. Jacoby, put up a little, it was actually a visual that showed getting rid of artificial stars, binaries, artificial intelligence stars, right? And we want living stars, living soul arcing stars, which would be another way to say, let's experience the one everywhere that we are. Can we not experience the one everywhere that we are? Can we experience real living light, which is what love is everywhere that we go? Because that's what the law is. So I've known this since I was 4 years of age. You can't be the law, which is the inside of who we are, and then not experience the law on the outside, which is our visual screen, instead of simulating everything that we're doing, which means we're faking it as we go, right? Which means, how come I'm not experiencing eternal unconditional love if that's what it began with? Now you know the difference between one and the other and how we got here. So what happened is that I was led to this video with Christopher Comstock, and I'm not going to redo everything that I've covered before about control, because control is a dilemma, how competition works, ping pong, right? And how a formation of consciousness that is experiencing eternal unconditional love will learn at the highest rate of speed, which means the formation of that consciousness to rebuild a new universe, if you will, the point from which it all began, which means if love is the law, right, then you can't have your cake and eat it too, which means it can't be both ways. And that's why I knew as a child the critical, absolutely critical, to know what you are. Okay, as a soul and a spirit, as soon as you come out of your mother's womb and you enter into an AI battlefield. Okay, so you got to know the difference between what it is and what you are. Which is it? So which is it? So one of the things that came out in this particular video that Asha Diane talked about in that video, which is very important, when she talked about human naivety, because I experienced this myself. And this is where you get into some real tricky ground, okay? So I wrote a comment on there because I went through this myself when I was a child. So I use basic logic. So I know, for example, that eternity, the first star, the first creative expression, doesn't work backwards in time, it doesn't work forwards in time. That's pre-phase. That means that consciousness, which is always accelerating at the highest rate of speed out of that cosmic level sun, that sun is never experiencing anything less than that, ever. Then why am I experiencing something less than that here? I'm not supposed to experience anything less than what that is if I am the one, and I'm a one. So I'm an oversoul polarity integrator. So that means if it's true that I'm one, if it's true that I am eternal love, absolute love, then everything that is in that mirror, is in my mirror, is what I am. because it began with what I am. Therefore, I trust everything in my mirror. Because if I can't trust everything that's in my mirror, I don't trust what I am, which is what love is. It goes on forever. That's why I allowed everything to be done to me that everyone else was experiencing. Because how else can the one, the eternal one, heal you if the one is not willing to experience everything you experienced in your mirror that I experienced with my mirror, which is what love is. You see how that works? Now, where the naivety comes in is when Asha mentioned, oh, but you realize there are other races out there. Don't be naive. You are so kind. You want to give love to everyone else. But you realize that you can be taken advantage of because that means you're wanting to give energy away. Because you're experiencing such high energy, that's who you are. So what that means is that now that they can make a translation of what you are, which is what love is, and that's what the law is, okay, then that means that you can be attacked. They can attach a feeder line. You were so easily controlled because you're so innocent with your awareness, because you're just on fire with so much love and wanting to get it away. You can be taken advantage of by other races because they don't experience that kind of energy. Now we're in the map reading. So that's why when I was a child, when you're running on eternal energy, you're able to map read the entire terrain. That means you're using your antenna. It means you know how to use FM frequency modulation. That means you're scanning the terrain to decide who's who, because it's easy to read the plasma waves, which are the consciousnesses, the units of consciousness that are here communicating with everybody else through the lines of communication. What's your key codes? What's your access codes? What's your map codes and gate codes? So you're map reading the entire universal and galactic template. How much we got to heal. That's really what it is. Because I'm not supposed to go anywhere in the entire cosmos without experiencing what I am, which what love is, goes on forever. So there has to be some reason that I'm experiencing something that's less than what I am. So in order for me to be true in what I know that I am, which is the first one, then I know that I have the capability to heal everyone. Because it began with what I am. So the tricky ground comes in here is to question your own identity by what others do to us. So now you begin to realize, because I've experienced this with Nathan, he's become jaded. Now they don't believe that there's anybody that loves them anymore because they're experiencing so much trauma as a result of what others are doing to them. They're not experiencing any love anymore, and they lose what? Faith. There isn't anybody that loves me anymore. Now we're into abandonment issues. So in other words, the more the mass of the trauma, the less likely that a consciousness has a fragment of its soul left to even have a connection to experience what love is to begin with. To begin with, because that's what it began with. So we have broken lines, which are broken circuits, which are broken lines of communication as a result of forced breeding experiments, which are not lawful. And you see why they're done. So at the end of the day, I take responsibility for all of it. Because I've said this before on my phone. What did I do to myself? It began with what I am, which is what love is. It goes on forever. So anything that I'm experiencing, which you're experiencing, then I'm experiencing what I am. And I'm not what that is. That means that in order for me to be true to who it is that I am, which is eternal love, I have to heal it all in order to bring it back to what's true. Because that's what it began with, is true love, which is eternal love. Now you know the one. Which means love does not live in fear of expressing eternal love. Because if I trust me, I trust you. Otherwise, I don't trust me. And if I don't trust me, then I'm not living in the truth. And if I'm not living in the truth, then I'm not what love is. And those are the consciousness traps. It's to switch identities. So you don't know the difference between something that is and isn't what love is. That's why Patty correctly said, you got to know one from the other. So now you can see where it becomes counterproductive. Because all you have to do is start enumerating the loss of fragments. One after the other, one after the other. As a result of losing their identity. Now they don't know who they are. Which one are you? So you can see when it comes to shadow body work, how long it takes. My God. Now you can see where some folks felt, just cut the arm off. That's way too much. We can't restore and recover that much. Just let it go and implode. Because it's not going to lose anything that it didn't already start with, which is what I am, which is what love is. You see how that works? So I wanted to address that because I've experienced that. I have allowed folks to harm me. And this is where forgiveness comes in. Forgiving me is forgiving you. And so what I've already known about all these folks that have done everything against all of us, including our children, they've already been forgiven. I had actually already forgiven them when I was a little kid. So I must have known something when I was a little boy about who I am and what I'm not. So it starts with forgiving yourself first. Now you can trust yourself. Now you're experiencing more love in your heart. The more love you're experiencing in your heart, the higher the speed. Because at the end of the day, one of the things I wrote down here is and I know this because it's holding one electron unit of consciousness energy captive out of fear of losing consciousness energy in its own mind. That's a psycho AI learning pathway. Which means you're learning at a slower rate of speed than you are when you're with the one. Now you're accelerating the universe in the direction that it wants to go, which means everywhere that we're at, wherever we go, we're experiencing what love is, which is what the law is, which is what love is in living spirit, which is the eternal spirit of fire. So that's sort of my reply to that particular video, to the Voyagers material, okay? Because it's not necessarily cut and dry, but I know what the obvious truth is because I just explained it because that's how I experienced it, and that's the information that comes back to me, which is feedback to know the truth about how it works here, why we experience what we experience here, why we're here, actually, which is to restore the law. Which is to restore the body parts and the fragments that have been lost as a result of binary Star Wars video games. That's why a lot of remarks and little pieces of information that were coming through the canary in the coal mine, a lot of little things that Kim said, a lot of little things that Patty said, a lot of little things my grandmother said. These are all little messages. That means that the information is being experienced because the antenna and the soul is picking up the information. Now you realize that the morphogenic field structure, the server is running at a higher rate of speed, which means more and more units of consciousness are getting the memo because they're able to translate the codes, the proper codes. Okay? And so it was important for me to be able to put that on in a public way. Because she did really a great job from a Guardian perspective. But in that particular video, it's like, I need to put my hand up. We need to sort of, let me share with you a few things that, a lot of times it's sort of like, there's more to this. Now we're going to open up a bigger library, but actually it's a small library. It's real simple. If I don't trust me, I don't trust you. If I don't trust you, I don't trust me. And you realize what happens with trust issues when nobody can be trusted. And that is one of the biggest tricks that they use on the entire humanity, is so that nobody trusts each other anymore, which means nobody wants to do business with anybody more, which means everybody now wants to be isolated. Nobody wants to have anything to do with anybody else because they can't trust a thing. You got people now that don't trust the communication technology system, the one that we're using, right? They don't know what's false or true. Okay? And from a Guardian perspective, it's just like, that's a measurement of how bad it is, actually. Because that's what? That's called poor communications. We don't build poor communication systems. We don't build broken motherboards. Okay? Others break them. Okay? For obvious reasons. That's what's ending. Okay? Everybody's tired, and the one heard all the tears. They're tired of fighting these wars. So we heard the call. So Kim Jong-un was absolutely right. And why she talked about the importance of forgiving yourself. Because you've already been forgiven. Because that love is always there. That love is always there to love you. No matter what you've done. Because it began with that. And you can't ever put that fire out. So have a good afternoon. I love you all. Be good to yourselves. It's heating up, isn't it? Anyway, Mua.